Maria. Welcome to A Space to Write. This is an hour-and-a-half guided creative writing session filled with fun prompts to get your creativity flowing, all on the theme of the unexpected. So I hope you enjoy. Hey everybody, welcome. Hello. Okay, a lot of people in the UK, it looks like. Anyone not in the UK? Oh yeah, France. Hey, nice to see you. Croatia, wow. Amazing. How did you find us if you're in Croatia? Thailand, Peru, oh wow. And living in Germany. Oh, I recognize your name. I've seen you online. Raphael. Oh, Tokyo. What time is it for you? Whoa. And Israel. Oh my god. We're a very international crowd today. This is our second session ever. So I'm really happy to have you guys here, to have you be a part of what we're doing. Living in London, but French. Okay. So a lot of people from places and they're not living there. I'm one of you too. You might be able to tell from my accent. I'm not British. I'm technically British. I have citizenship now, but I was born in Ohio and I live in London. So yeah, that's where I am. So yeah, this is my writing room. I live in West London. I've been, I think, in London for about 11 years. I've been also, yeah, writing since I could hold a pencil practically. So this has been kind of a lifelong calling for me. But yeah, the idea is that today is for anyone who wants to write. So you may be quite experienced. You may be sitting down to write for the first time. You may have maybe more of a private journaling practice, and this will support any and all of that. So my main area of expertise is fiction. So I started out with short stories, and I've been also writing a novel, and I write screenplays. So my area is fiction, but you're more than welcome to write anything at all today that suits you. So I will probably be using words like story, character, but you can feel free to write poetry. You can feel free to write, reflective nonfiction. You can write about your own life. You can make yourself a character in a fictional story. And again, so our theme is the unexpected. So today is your chance to get super unexpected, get super weird and creative, and have fun. The idea is that we're exercising our creative muscles. So there will be a lot of prompts today that will guide your thinking, maybe help you to develop some characters, some new story ideas, but none of this has to go anywhere. The idea is that you do it, and in doing it, you exercise. So it's kind of a creative workout. You can bring in projects that you are already working on. So if there's characters you're developing, if there's a story you're working on, please feel free to build it with these exercises if you want to. You can also kind of, I'm going to be doing this, you can cheat on your project. So when I'm working on something longer, I feel this pressure to work on just that and be very focused. So maybe today you can, have a look around and see what else is out there. You can, cheat on your project. We won't tell. Great. Creative workout. You like it? Yes. Okay. So everyone, make sure you've got a notebook, or I like to write on paper with pen, but if you type, you can feel free to do that. But just whatever you need, make sure you've got it now, because we will start writing pretty much right away. So, okay, I've got a little PowerPoint thingy that I put together just to make sure I don't skip anything, and also to make sure that I share everything I want to share with you guys, because I have quite a few interesting examples that we'll look at as some sort of case study in the unexpected, and to give you different ideas and inspire you perhaps, because writing doesn't have to be the same thing. We can be creative, we can be weird, we can be wild. Okay, so let's start sharing that. Right, so I like to start off with a quote. When I'm starting my writing sessions, I usually have some kind of nonfiction book I'm working on, and it's usually to do with writing. So I like to read a little bit from that before I even dive in, just because it gets me in the mood, gets me centered, it gets me ready to write. So I found this quote by Paulo Coelho, I think that's how you say his name, and it is about the unexpected. So he says, "You have to take risks. We will only understand the miracle of life fully when we allow the unexpected to happen. And I would even change that a little bit just to suit what we're doing today. I would say we will only understand the miracle of creativity fully when we allow the unexpected to happen. So I'm going to challenge each and every one of you to be open to the unexpected. I'm sure that comes as no surprise, haha, because the theme is the unexpected. But do be open. You know, if you feel that your creativity, your inspiration is pushing you in a direction that is unexpected, follow it. Even if that means not doing the exercise I've just given you. So I might give you an exercise and your creativity is like, no, I don't want to do that. I want to do this. Follow that. Follow where your creativity wants to go, because that's almost always a really interesting place. So I will be giving you structured exercises. Feel free to ignore them if your creativity is taking you in a different direction. So today we want to be open to the unexpected, allow the unexpected to happen, okay? Before I even start giving my 2 cents about the unexpected, we have a kind of reflective journaling exercise. So your prompt, this is reflecting on your life. I want you to think about a time in your life when you were surprised by something unexpected. It could be something positive, negative, neutral, whatever comes to mind, something in your life that was unexpected, and you're going to reflect on what you did expect, what really happened, and how you felt about it. Okay? I'll type that in the chat just so everyone has the same prompt and you don't forget what you're supposed to be doing. But I will mute myself for 5 minutes and let you reflect on that, okay? So if nothing's coming to you, just kind of sit with it for a little bit. Normally something will pop in, okay? So reflecting on something in your life that was unexpected for 5 minutes. Okay, I think that was about 5 minutes, so just finish up. If you're writing a sentence, finish it up. Okay, so I will not ask anyone to share because journaling, I think, is meant to be pretty personal, and we want to have that contract with ourselves that we're not going to share it with anyone, because then I think we'll be more honest with ourselves. At least that's the idea. So the reason I like to start these sessions with a bit of reflective journaling is because I'm sure we've all heard that sort of oft said phrase, write what you know. I mean, there's a lot that's to be said about that, and maybe it's not entirely correct 100%. However, what we know, I think, better than anyone is ourselves, especially our inner experience. Now, when we're writing something, we are often trying to create a character who's not us, but we want them to be believable. And in order to do that, it's important that they have kind of a rich inner experience. So it's very helpful to always come back to yours, because it's going to help you to write what's going on inside someone else. So I suspect that, just kind of based on what happened with my writing exercise just now, is that whatever unexpected thing you chose to reflect on, it was probably a bit complicated. My feelings about what I chose were not just one thing or the other. So that in itself is useful, because now I'm going to go into the next exercise thinking about, okay, so if I'm going to be writing about characters entering into an unexpected situation, probably their reaction to it will be multifaceted. It's not just going to be one feeling. So bear that in mind, or whatever else you found in your writing, journaling just now. Carry that forward and allow it to inform whatever we write for the rest of the session. Okay, so now I want to do a chat about the unexpected. So why did I theme today the unexpected? What does the unexpected have to do with writing? A lot, actually. So when I was kind of gathering my thoughts for today, it occurred to me that what we want to do when we're writing, I think, is to achieve an intriguing balance between the expected and the unexpected. So what this means is we must do a little bit of what is expected. We should follow certain conventions, to be very basic about it. The conventions are that we will write with good grammar, good spelling, good punctuation. We will write from left to right unless we're writing in a different language, like Japanese. But if you're writing in English, you should write from left to right. You will produce a book that is then printed and bound, and people flip through it like this, okay? Another typical story convention is that you will take us on a journey through one character, and they will start and finish in a different place. They will have learned something, they will have integrated something, they will have changed by the end of it. Okay. Those are expectations, but they are not rules. And now I'm going to show you a few writers that broke those very basic expectations. So back to my little PowerPoint. Okay. So, and if you can see my video as well, I've got the book here. Example number 1. This is a book called Hopscotch by Julio Cortázar. And this is how the book starts. It has an instruction book for reading it. So it tells you that you can either read it from start to finish, or you can read it in this weird, mad order that it's given you. So you can see there that the alternative beginning is chapter 73. So here's chapter 73. You can see it's on page 383. There are, my book has roughly 560 pages. So you could read it start to finish. You could start with 73, and then the, I don't think I have, yeah, so if you have a look at my video, every chapter ends with a different number. Can you see that there? So here, a different number, and then that tells you which chapter you could go to next. And then alternatively, you could just flip through it, read random bits, and create your own version of this book. So that's a pretty unexpected thing to do. It makes for very interesting reading. It is also a little bit frustrating because, you know, we are used to books being linear and you want everything to be right and correct. So it's very challenging, and I think in a really good way. Okay, there's a little chat. What did they say? What's that book called again? So I'll go back to the previous. So it's called Hopscotch. Can you see that? Hopscotch by Julio Cortázar. Okay, so that's case study 1. So, remember how I said that we expect books to be bound? Here's a writer who broke that expectation. So there's no point in sharing it on my PowerPoint. You have to just see it. This is one of my most intriguing items in my book collection. So composition number 1. Someone just said that's my grandma's favorite book. You mean this one? Oh, the other one. Okay. So then it comes in a box. And here's the book. It's not bound. So the idea is that you open it and mix it up kind of like a deck of cards. And then here's what every page kind of looks like. There's a little illustration on the other side. And there is no prescribed order. I don't know how you even write something like this, but it's kind of amazing that someone has. And I've actually never mixed up the pages since I bought it, which I think kind of goes against what this book wants me to do, which is just probably throw it in the air and then pick up random pages and then that's the book. I mean, how intriguing is that? So that's case study number 2. Now, maybe some people have read this. It's A Girl is a Half-Formed Thing. It won a lot of prizes. I think it was the Women's Prize for Fiction in 2014. So remember what I said about the expectation that we should write in complete sentences? This author does not. So you can see there, this is, yeah, just a picture of random, the start of chapter 3. And just have a quick skim because it's a really, really interesting style that she has written this entire book in. Just checking the chat messages. Does this book therefore link, as in do all the pages follow from one another? I think that question is referring to composition number 1. They have this like similar characters, so it's not just a different story on every page. But you know, depending on the order that you put the pages in, these things would happen at different points in the story. So there is a continuous character. That's about all I can say. Definitely check it out. It's very, very intriguing. I will admit I have not read the whole thing, but just as kind of an inspiration exercise, I will occasionally pull the book out, pull out a random page, read it, and then let it be. So maybe that's a really good way to use the book as well. Yeah, but then back to this A Girl's a Half-Formed Thing. Yeah, so fragments, bad grammar, I think sometimes even, maybe not bad spelling, I think she at least sticks to that expectation. But there you go, so you can break that very, very basic rule. Okay, and then I also spoke about the expectation that a book is about a single character who has a journey and they change by the end. Well, this is a book called Invisible Cities. I've got it here. This book has been with me for a very long time. I first read it when I was 19, maybe. It was for a poetry class, which I get it, because this book is very hard to categorize. So every chapter is more or less one page. These photos that I'm sharing, I think it continues on to the next page, except for the third one. That is a complete chapter. And then every chapter describes a different city in a very poetic, fanciful way. There is a continuous character because it's the I, this person who is exploring each city. But I wouldn't say they change by the end. I wouldn't say there's really a story happening to them. It's more of an exploration. And then each chapter is kind of intercut with these dialogues between the narrator and I think Kubla Khan or something. And yeah, it's a really fascinating read. I love it. I think it's amazing. But yeah, is it a novel? Is it a short story collection? Is it poetry? Is it a prose poem? I think it's whatever you think it is, really. So that's case study number 4. Number 4. And then finally, this came out, I think, the most recently of all these books I'm sharing. Outline by Rachel Cusk. Maybe it didn't. When was this published? 2014. Okay, so similar to a Girls Half Formed thing. So this is book 1 of kind of a trilogy of books that she wrote where it's not really about the narrator. The narrator is conveying to us these conversations that she has had with other people. So these other people end up being stronger characters in her own story, which is ostensibly her story because she's the narrator, she's the I. But it's a book told in dialogue and conversations from other people. So it's really intriguing because you start to piece together who she is, but you almost have to do a little bit of detective work, and it's just it's fascinating. Probably one of my favorite books. I think it's great. So yeah, that breaks the convention of a story being about one character, because in this book, the character is similar to the Invisible Cities guy. She's kind of traveling and journeying through these different people and hearing their stories. So yeah, that's another really interesting read. Now, of course, you can be more conventional. These are like kind of outrageous examples of being unexpected. Let's stop this for a second. So you do not need to be this radical, but the point I'm making is that you can, okay? You can break very fundamental rules. You can write in sentence fragments. You can write a book that does not have a prescribed order. You can write a book about a character who is not a character and they do things that are not a story. You can break these conventions. However, I will come back to my original point, which is that we want to achieve a balance, an intriguing balance between the expected and the unexpected. Because if you write a book that is nothing but unexpected, I think you'll probably alienate your readers. I think we need to have some kind of common ground. So, for most of us, that's going to involve writing a book from start to finish, having complete sentences and good grammar, but maybe being unexpected about some other things. Okay? So you want to pick and choose which rules you're going to break, which rules you're going to follow, just to keep that intriguing balance, to keep your reader engaged, because we want to feel like we're playing by some kind of the same rules, but then to throw in something unexpected that will keep them going, because that's what's going to make the story. So I wanted to give an example of how to maybe add in a little bit of unexpected to something that is expected. So let's say I'm telling you a story about my boss, okay? And my story is about how my boss is so mean and doesn't really care about his workers, okay? I mean, that's not that original. That's pretty typical. So it's not a story that I would write a book about. However, if I then told you I have a boss who's really mean, but I found out recently that he was raised by someone who he thought was his mom but wasn't. Instantly, that's a story. That's a story. So we start with a more maybe conventional expected character or a type, and then we give them something unexpected in their background or in the present or in the future. And I also like that example because then it does kind of maybe explain why the boss is so mean. Maybe he has trust issues because he thought this person was his mother and she wasn't. So that is just my little example. And now we're going to do some writing. So what I want you guys to do is, this is a kind of a two-parter. So we'll start with part 1. I want you to make a list of stereotypical characters. Okay? So this is Like the mean boss. That's a type. That's a type. There's nothing surprising or different about it. So make a list of types. So another example might be the socially awkward nerd, right? That's another type. It's not new or different. It's a type. The overly protective parent. Okay? So just make a list, as many as you can think of. I'm just going to give you a minute or two to just come up with as many stereotypical characters as you can. And I see someone's asking me to repeat it, so I'll also type this in the chat while you guys are making your list. Just, 1 or 2 minutes. Okay, when you've come up with a few, let's say you have like 4, maybe 4 or 5, then you're going to add in the unexpected. So in my mean boss example, the unexpected part was about his unconventional upbringing. To give another example, so we have the socially awkward nerd. And maybe what they're really nerdy about is juggling. They're a juggling nerd. How many of those do you meet? Pretty unexpected. So go back into your list and add in something unexpected about these stereotypical characters. So I'll give you another minute or 2 to do that. Okay, keep working on it if you haven't quite finished, but if you have finished, can you pick out the one that you like the best and just share it in the chat? Just to kind of see what other unexpected things people have come up with. Maybe you'll inspire somebody else. So yeah, pick out your favorite one and just pop it in the chat. Ooh, okay, people look. The surly shop assistant that is an undercover agent. Yeah, I like that. Evil nun. Yeah, that is not expected, is it? Overly protective parents who had survived a shipwreck. Yeah, and that will kind of explain why they're protective, right? The disappearing clever father. I'm not sure I understand that one. Disappearing how? Like they actually go invisible? Maybe you can give me more information. Bitter divorced woman has a twin sister she knows nothing about. Wow. Okay. The blonde cheerleader type who's actually top of the state in physics. Yeah. Lonely writer is a funny magician, I think he meant. Magician? I like that. So they're, yeah, kind of like a recluse, but they really enjoy doing magic tricks. That's an interesting combination. Intrusive mother who deals weed. So I assume intrusive because she's like staying on top of her own children, but then she's got this other thing that she does that's a bit unconventional. That's interesting. Okay, I won't be able to read all these out loud, but these are fantastic. So yeah, have a look at the chat. Maybe find one that intrigues you that you might want to write about later, and you can just make a note of it. I think it's fine if we're using other people's ideas here, because I know that everyone would write something different. But if you have something that you especially do not want anyone to be used, just can you type that in the chat if you're like, oh no, I want that for myself, nobody else. But I really think it's okay, because I think everyone would have their own different take on these anyway. Just catching up with the rest of them. These are really good. Female male with traumatized past who is a lead therapist. That is good. I've actually seen that done in a few shows recently. Did anyone see, oh god, what was it called? It was that Steve Carell was in it, and Donald Gleason was playing like a serial killer, and Steve Carell was his therapist, but Steve Carell had his own kind of dark past. So yeah, or like his complicated relationship with his son that he hadn't quite resolved, and so he's a therapist and should have these things resolved supposedly, but didn't. Yeah, so that kind of thing, those unexpected sides of a pretty typical character, it's story gold. And you know, I think because we already have this entry point, we all know what the therapist type is, we know what the intrusive mother type is, and then you give us the other thing that's like, oh, but there's that about them. Yeah, I'll watch that. So yeah, it's definitely something to keep in mind. These are all great. I want to copy them all. Yeah, take notes. Write them all down. These are all really, really good. Question from someone. How do you stop the unexpected shift into another predictable cliche? That's a really good question. So something would be a cliche if it's expected, right? So if you're adding in this unexpected thing, so maybe to take the example of the therapist thing, because someone gave that as an example, and instantly I was like, oh yeah, that's been done, I've seen that. But I wouldn't say that that's a cliche yet. I think it would be if we've seen it many, many times. So the advice I can give you about avoiding cliches is just to make sure you read and watch as much as possible. So in whatever genre you're working in, if it's fiction, if it's film, you kind of have to be exposed to what's being produced. And then you'll be able to know pretty confidently whether it's cliche or not. I hope that answers the question. Isn't that also something you can root out when you're writing a second draft? Yes, if it's not integral to the entire piece. You won't really be able to root something out if it's the bone structure that everything else is built on. But I would suggest, if there's something integral about the book that you're worried is cliche, I would let that go, because then I think the meat, right, if we're talking about bone structure, the meat could be more unexpected and more unconventional. So definitely another thing you can do is to just use really typical plot lines, plot progressions, you know, borrow from known stories, and then add your own spin on it. So that can actually be really helpful, to have the expected through line and then the unexpected kind of all on top of it. Okay, so if there's other questions, I'll have to come back to them in a moment, because I want us to get writing. Okay, that was really good. Thank you for sharing all that, everybody. We're now going to do some writing, some good old writing. I'll try to wrap up the exercises by around 11. We might go a little bit over, because I think I've been talking more than I thought I would. And then for the rest of the time until 11:30, then you'll be able to write whatever you like. So here is another exercise in playing with the expected versus unexpected. Oh, this, maybe I should come back to that. I don't know if I have time to talk about this. Very briefly, I was going to use Kingsman as another case study in a story that plays really well and really cleverly with the unexpected. So if you haven't seen it, Colin Firth plays an action hero. That in itself is pretty unexpected. You don't really expect that actor to be a sort of James Bond kick-ass guy, but he is, and it's really fun to watch. The spies themselves, so he plays a spy. The spies themselves are these kind of posh boys. You wouldn't really expect them to be able to do martial arts and kill people, but they do. And then this guy in the middle, who's kind of the lead, the young guy with the hat and the black shirt with the yellow stripes, he comes from a poor background, and all these spies are super posh, and Colin Firth brings him into the group of spies. So there's also some internal playing with internal expectations, where the other characters expect that their group of spies will remain, you know, exclusive and posh, and then he brings in this guy from a poor background. Anyway, it's a super entertaining watch, and I think because it plays with the unexpected versus the expected so well. So I do recommend it. Okay, here is our writing exercise. So let me explain. You probably have heard this story, okay? I'm not going to say the name. I think we can probably, most of us can probably piece it together, but it's fine if you can't. This is a very, 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 very famous fairy tale. This is the opening of the fairy tale from the fairy tale collection by the Brothers Grimm. And yeah, so this is the start of the story. You probably know where it's going if you can recognize what story this is. But I want you to forget what you know about it. All right? So just take a moment to read. This is the start of the story. This is our setup. And then the rest is up to you. Okay? So I want you to forget everything you know and just kind of imagine where else this could go. All right? So if you're not feeling super inspired, you don't have to be writing the story, you know, properly. You could do it more as a summary, or you could even do it as like, oh, maybe this happens, kind of in an outlining way. But so here's the start of your story. Find the middle and the ending that you don't expect. So it might take a stretch of the imagination. But yeah, just do your best. It doesn't have to be good. It just has to be unexpected. Okay? So I'm going to give you, let's say, 8 minutes to work on this. Okay? And then, yeah, that's all I'll say for now. So 8 minutes, find the middle and the end of this story, make it very, very unexpected. If there's any questions, please put them in the chat. Okay, finish up what you're writing. You can always come back to these later and keep developing it if you like what you've done. Anyone know the story? What story was that? Mm-hmm. Snow White. It was Snow White. So how was that? I found that really interesting actually. I was doing it along with you guys. It was difficult at first because we know the story of Snow White so well, right? All I could think, all my brain wanted was just to write that story. And I was like, nah, be unexpected. So then eventually, and hopefully this happened with you. So after my brain was like, no, I want it, it kind of relaxed its grip, and then I started to flow, and other ideas were coming. I don't know if I'll do anything with this, but it was interesting what I came up with, because I started to imagine, not that, you know, the queen will become jealous of Snow White and want to kill her, but I started to imagine this stepmother who is so obsessed with beauty and assumes everyone else is, that she you know, tries her best to make her stepdaughter beautiful, but the daughter doesn't want anything to do with it. But then, you know, she wants to please the stepmother, so she goes along with it and whatever. Eventually, I got to a point where Snow White just wants to be a botanist. I just imagine, like, she's crawling around in the mud, picking flowers and studying flowers. And then I came up with, like, oh, and then she discovers a flower where if you inhale it, everything you see is beautiful. And then I was like, oh, wow, that's really interesting. So what if she could sell this and everyone could smell it and then everyone's beautiful? How would the stepmother feel about that? Because then beauty's no longer objective, right? So, like I said, I don't know if that'll go anywhere, if I'll come back to it ever again. Feel free to steal that if you want, anybody. But it is interesting to check our assumptions and to come up with different twists and turns on something that we think is already really familiar. So I would encourage you to do this later. I think it'd be really interesting for anyone to come back to that story and read it. You know, it's on, I'll try and find the link while you're doing the next exercise. I found it from Project Gutenberg. So it's just like, yeah, free online. But kind of imagine to yourself, what do you remember the story of Snow White to be? And then read that story and see if it does match your expectations. Because maybe there's something unexpected in the original version that you've just forgotten about. So that can be quite interesting. Okay, so we've got one more guided writing prompt before I let you be free and write whatever you like. And this is going to be a visual prompt. So I'm going to share an image, and then your prompt is to write something from their point of view. It's going to be as a character. So you're going to write something from their point of view. Okay, here's your guy. So imagine that you're writing a journal entry from him. Maybe when he comes home from, this looks like his job, maybe when he comes home he's going to write in his diary. What's he going to write about? And focus it around these questions. Is he living the life he expected? What does he expect from the events today? Has anything surprising happened to him lately? Will something surprising happen that he'll go home and write about? So yeah, those are your questions. I'll let you do that. Ooh, we'll be pretty much right on time. So about 5 minutes, okay? And then we'll come back. Okay, I'm going to stop the share in a second. If you like this gentleman and you want to keep writing about him, you are more than welcome to do so in the final 30 minutes. But I'm kind of curious if anybody wants to share in the chat. I'd be really curious how you answered the question. Is he living the life he expected? And if he's not, what did he expect? It'd be kind of cool to see what other people came up with. So feel free to share that in the chat. Now, also, I don't know if anybody noticed, this is an AI sort of generated image. My partner's been making them for us. And I don't know if we caught this. There's like a weird sausage looking thing next to all these donuts. I don't know what that's supposed to be. You know how AI is, it just like makes shapes that it thinks it fits in the situation. But I just thought, I wonder if anybody picked up on that. Are they going to write about that weird sausage? Okay, I'll stop the share. Thought it was a weird baguette. Yeah, super weird baguette. It's got like 3 prongs. Okay. So hopefully an unexpected pastry. Yeah, very unexpected. I did not expect it. So, okay, hopefully that was interesting and that you've, opened the imagination and the portal into the unexpected, and we can have a little bit of fun in the last 30 minutes. So this final portion is for you to write about whatever you like. You can go back through the chat, maybe find an idea that somebody else put, you can write from that. You can expand anything that you've already been working on in these exercises. You can work on something that you already have ongoing, or you could write something completely new. So I'm also going to share a few other prompts if you want to use them. If not, don't. You can also just take a screenshot or note them down. Maybe you find them useful later. But yeah, for the final 30 minutes, we're just all going to be here writing together. I'll probably remove the spotlight so that we can all just kind of be in the Zoom together and just, write together for about 30 minutes. All right, so back to, no, I won't really be able to do that because I'll have to share screen. Okay, so back to our final prompt, if you want one. I do like this guy. There's something sweet about him. Okay, so if you do want a prompt to work from for the final 30 minutes, these are some ideas. So since we're working with the unexpected, you could write about someone who boards a train with an unexpected destination. You could do some more reflective journaling, so reflecting on a time in your life when you had an expectation, but it was proven wrong. You could take a well-known character and put them in an unexpected genre. So my examples here were Snow White, we just were talking about her. Maybe Snow White in a murder mystery, Hamlet in a rom-com, whatever else comes to you. And then you could imagine that you've found a box buried in the ground outside your home and it contains something unexpected. What is it? So feel free to use one of those, all of those, none of those. I'll be quiet for the final 30 minutes. I will keep an eye on the chat if anybody has any final questions. And I will also say if anybody wants to let me know how they found today, it'd be really useful because this is only our second session. So it'd be great to know how people found it. Did you find the exercises interesting, useful? So feel free to say that in the chat as well if you like. And yeah, I will let you know when our 30 minutes is up. Happy writing. Okay, so we didn't do a full half hour. You can keep writing, but since people are starting to take off, I just thought I should bring us all back so we can say our goodbyes. This is all the info about the next session, plus all the social channels, and this will be put up on the YouTube, so I think that's the one right in the middle is the important one. So yeah, make a note of that. I'll stop sharing here. It has been an absolute pleasure. I was super productive, and I think a lot of other people have been. I see a lot of really lovely messages coming through. So yeah, this is, as I said, the second one that we've done. So it's always great to hear how people found it. I'm very happy to see that there's a lot of people saying it helped to unlock some creativity, and that is exactly what we want here. So I hope it's been fun. Feel free to suggest, future stuff you might want to see, other themes you might want to see covered. Right now I'm just sort of picking them out of the air, whatever word occurs to me, and then building a day around it. I think, the possibilities for where this can go are pretty endless. So yeah, let us know what you think, and see you in July. The reason we don't have one in June is because I'm going to be going to visit my sister in America. I didn't know when that would be, so I thought, well, I better just leave the whole month free. But the idea is that we'll also film a writing sprint. So these live stream ones are an hour and a half, and we're hopefully going to be posting some writing sprints that are for 30 minutes. So equally guided, those will go up on the YouTube channel as well. So I think we'll start to do that in June. So you hopefully won't miss out on too much, because you can still do a writing sprint. Great. Well, I'll close up here. Feel free to keep writing if you're in the flow. And so yeah, hopefully see you guys at the next one. Enjoy the rest of your day. Oh, I can maybe unmute everybody if people want to say. How do I do that? Okay, you have the power now. If anybody wants to say anything, you can turn on your mic. Is that...
Thanks very much to you all. It was great fun.
Good to hear it.
Thank you very much.
Thank you for coming. And thank you for everyone who put in, some ideas and thoughts, and we can all kind of draw from each other's creative wells. So it's been super, super fun. Okay, I'm not going to be able to read all these messages right now, but I've saved the chat, so I'll catch up on messages. If anybody has any questions or anything, you can get in touch with us on Meetup, and then I'll also be sending out the link to everyone who booked on this, so you'll hear from me that way as well. So, okay, I'll say my goodbyes. Enjoy. It's a beautiful sunny day where I'm at, so I hope it's equally nice for you guys.